Hey, it's Andrew Brown, and we are taking a look at Amazon MSK. So Amazon MSK stands for Amazon Managed Streaming for Apache Kafka. Why they made it that long name, I have no idea, but it's basically a hosted version of a managed version of Kafka that allows you to build applications with Kafka. So here is the architecture. I could not be bothered to make my own, so I just grabbed it from AWS, and I like how it's using like the really old icons. But anyway, Amazon MSK utilizes Zookeeper servers. We talked about Zookeeper previously. That's why I was priming you for it. But something that's really interesting is that you don't necessarily have to use Zookeeper. You could use something called KRaft to interact and do things with Kafka. But specifically with AWS, they don't have support for it. So basically, you have to use Zookeeper. So for those who are familiar with Kafka, expecting to use these particular tools, understand that they're not going to be available to you. There are two types of nodes. We have broker nodes and Zookeeper nodes. Some might call them Z nodes or Z nodes. The key difference between these nodes is broker nodes is for handling the messages themselves, whereas the Zookeeper nodes is for handling the overall structure and communication of everything. MSK comes in two types of clusters. We have provisioned and serverless. You have an idea probably by now the difference between provision and serverless. Kafka has direct integrations with Amazon S3 and Event Bridge Pipe, so that those are two ways you can get data into them. If you when you launch MSK, you launch it into a VPC, meaning that in order to actually talk to it, just like an RDS instance, you would have to have a resource in the same VPC. But just like RDS instance as well, you can supposedly turn on public access so you can access the cluster outside of your VPC. I could not get this to work for the life of me, but apparently it is an option that you can utilize. When you want to establish a connection to your MSK server, you're going to need your Bootstrap broker endpoint. So you can grab that by going get Bootstrap brokers, and they can provide one. They'll have a endpoints or endpoints specifically for public access, or one specifically for access within your VPC. So it's going to be dependent on that. When we do it in the lab, we just use the console to go grab it, which is very easily. And also, I just want to point out that sometimes they provide you multiple endpoints under each of these, because if you are deployed in 3 AZs, then they're going to give you back 3. Whereas when we do it, we're only dealing with 1 AZ, so we're just getting 1 back, if that makes sense. You can also get the Zookeeper connection string URL. And so the Zookeeper connection string URL allows you to interact with Zookeeper directly. And you would do this if you're doing broker registration, topic configuration, cluster membership, quota management, access control lists. And so I noticed that you can supply the Zookeeper connection string URL as opposed to the broker one. I don't do this because I never attempted it, and I couldn't even get the Zookeeper connection string because we did serverless MSK, which didn't seem to provide the endpoint. But that apparently is something that we can do. So just understand that if you want to get this Zookeeper connection string URL, you'd use describe cluster to get that. If you're using MSK serverless, I could not use describe cluster. I could only use describe cluster version 2, and it did not have it in there. Starting with Kafka 2.8, there is a mode called Craft. So that's Kafka Raft metadata mode, which allows Kafka to run without Zookeeper. But understand that AWS uses Zookeeper, which makes sense because they're running it at scale. There's also this thing called MS Connect. So this is a feature of MSK, which makes it easier for you to bring data in from other sources. And basically, this is using the Kafka Connect open source framework. So the idea is that there are third-party providers, or even AWS, where they've created these jar files following this framework. And the idea is that you can bring them in S3 and then reference them in S3 to create a custom plugin. And then you can create your connector referencing that plugin, and then also providing source information. So here, if it's MongoDB, we're providing the connection URI to our MongoDB instance. And that's a way for us to pipe data or stream data from a variety of services. So I didn't find a lot of plugins out there, but I did find the MongoDB one. So I imagine you have to do some work to find them or write your own, but that's a way you'd bring data into Kafka, okay?